I wanted to ask a little bit about what's happening in Hawaii. There's been a lot of talk regarding the drastic reductions in Army troop levels, which I believe actually is contrary to the defense strategic guidance that called for the rebalance or the shift to the Pacific. So, Mr. Secretary, does the President's fiscal year 16 budget requests provide you with the capabilities and the resources to conduct a rebalance to the Pacific? And how would drastic reductions in this theater affect this capability?
Well, it does provide for the rebalance, but I want to second what the chairman said, which is we are on the ragged edge of being able to satisfy all the ingredients of our strategy, of which the Asia-Pacific rebalance is a central ingredient. So if we don't get some budget stability and we keep doing things 1 year at a time and one piece at a time, we are going to have to reconsider our strategy. The way I put it earlier is not just the size, but the shape. Now, I would hope that our rebalance to the Asia-Pacific is something that we are able to sustain. And in our budget and our multi-year budget plan, we are able to sustain it. But under sequester and in 1 year at a time fashion, as the chairman said, we're on the ragged edge in our strategy, and something will have to give.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Secretary, the other purpose of this hearing is to talk about the President's requests, the AUMF requests. So I wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk about that and ask you to clarify some aspects of the request. In subsection C, called limitations, it says the authority granted in subsection A does not authorize the use of the United States Armed Forces in, quote, enduring offensive ground combat operations. So what is enduring offensive ground combat operations? Does this refer to the length of time which the operation is ongoing, the scope of the operations, some undefined relationship between time and scope?
Well, thanks. The AUMF, for me as Secretary of Defense, two things are important in the AUMF. One is that it gives us the flexibility to carry out our campaign, and that speaks to the provision you quote, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But the other is that it is passed up here on Capitol Hill in a way that says very clearly to our men and women who are conducting the campaign against ISIL that the country is behind them. That's very important to me, both the content of the AUMF and that it's supported widely in the Congress. To get to the provisions of it, the AUMF doesn't try to say everything that is permitted. Instead, which is, I think, wise, because for the chairman and me, we need the flexibility to conduct the campaign against ISIL in the way that the enemy, that defeating that enemy requires. It does rule out, using the language that you described, what the President has said, an Iraq or Afghanistan type long off period of offensive combat operations. And that is that language, by taking that possibility only out, leaves to me, our department, the flexibility we need to conduct the campaign against ISIL both practically and geographically, because we don't foresee having to conduct another campaign like Iraq or Afghanistan. And that's the one thing that is ruled out in the formulation you describe. Elsewhere, we have substantial flexibility under the President's formulation, and I welcome that, because I said as flexibility and widespread support are the two things that we need most. Chairman, do you want to add anything to that?
There is no doctrinal term in our military taxonomy that is enduring offensive, but it's clearly a statement of intent by the Commander-in-Chief. It does allow us to execute the campaign as it is currently designed.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. But maybe if you can, for the record, provide it to us. I mean, I think it's important to define this provision of the request. So if you can provide it in writing, some clarity as to what the President means by enduring combat ground offensive operations. Thank you.
Thank the gentleman. Mr. Whitman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for your service to our nation. We've heard a lot about how we are going to address